everyone. Thank you all for joining. This is the information session for the 2025-2026 Voice at the Center program. My name is Zach Frimmel. I am the project manager for this program, and I'm here with
Pete Rush. I am a program manager at Seattle Center.
Yes. So I work over at the Office of Arts and Culture. Pete works at the Seattle Center, and this is a partnership between our departments. So thank you all for joining us. Basically, we've got about up to 90 minutes to share some information with you all. Oh, hi.
Hi,
Hi, thanks for joining.
am I the only in-person person?
Yeah.
So far,
Yes.
Okay.
Make room for you in a certain
I
way.
think I'm just gonna push the chair a little over and
Yeah.
put
Okay.
myself at home here, unless it's better for me to be up front.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
fine.
Whatever you want, yeah.
Okay.
Seems logical to come here, so this is where it all happens.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, we just get started.
Great.
So yeah, we got about 90 minutes. Pete and I are going to kind of run through the guidelines. We're going to run through just a lot of the overview of the program. Feel free to ask questions as you have them. We'll have dedicated time throughout the info session to answer your questions. So yeah, the agenda, do a little program overview. I'm going to show you how to also apply for the grant using the FOX grant portal system. Again, we'll go over the guidelines. We will share the timeline of the grant cycle, start to finish. And again, we've got time for a question. So the big picture. So this program is a yearly series of free pop-up performances across the Seattle Center campus. And we're focusing on emerging and established and underserved artists. This is a competitive grant application process. We are seeing an increase in applications year over year. We do have $106,000 again this year to give out. And this is the 5th year of the program. And we have, as of right now, 10 years to run this program until it hopefully gets renewed. We have funders of this program are the Climate Pledge Arena and Seattle Kraken. Thank you to them for helping us support artists in the community and the Seattle Center audience. Our partners in this program are the Office of Arts and Culture, which is my side of it, the Seattle Center, Pete's side of it, Uptown Arts and Cultural Coalition as well as part of the Arts District's city. You want to share anything else? Okay.
No, it's good.
So partnership roles, as I mentioned, I'm over at the Office of Arts and Culture. I do the contracting, the payments, evaluation, the application process. And then Pete and I also work on the panel process. And then for the Seattle Center, I'll let Pete take it.
Yes, Seattle Center will work with the selected artists to book their space, their time, and date. We'll deal with all production and technical related issues, and as well as provide you with the support to produce the event on the actual day. And then Seattle Center does take a lead on helping to market the event, both through Office of Arts and Seattle Center channels, as well as set you up to do some marketing on your own. And then our partner, Uptown Arts and Culture Coalition, also lends mostly marketing support, as well as UACC generously provides a photographer to document all of these events, and those photos do become available to you after the fact for your use in the future.
Okay, so we have performance seasons for this program starting in the fall. That's October, but we're kind of moving more into November through December for this year, just given the timeline of contracting. And then the spring, the fall is November, December, and then the winter is January through March, and then spring is April through June, and then summer is July through September. So in the application process, which you'll see later on, you'll get to pick your priority season for which one works best for you.
We do ask you to, list first, second, and third choice.
Yeah.
And we do our best to sort of get you your first choice, but sometimes we might need to go to a second choice. And we would work with you to figure that out and then jointly agree on a date that works.
Be flexible.
I'll take over. These pop-up performances, as we call them, are short and stealth kind of, come to Seattle Center within a couple hours, put up a show, do it for the audience, and then take it down and go away. So they really are kind of like a pop-up. However, there is a much more production support that's available to you. So it's the deluxe pop-up version. We have basically all of Seattle Center campus is a potential venue for you to produce. There are some locations which are good for really small acts. These are maybe 1 to 3, people. Some of those include, and we'll show you some photographs of these locations in just a minute. Some of those include Thomas Street, which is a main thoroughfare that runs through campus, the monorail, Fisher Pavilion, rooftop. Some of our medium locations include Theater Commons, the Northwest Courtyard, Artists at Play, International Fountain. Those are good for events that have 3 to 5 to 6 or so sort of people. And then we do have 2 actual stages, which are the Armory, which is the one indoor venue at our disposal, and the Mural Amphitheater. So many of our venues are outdoors, which is something to think about in terms of what it is you want to do and also the timing you want to do it. We do a lot of these productions indoors on the Armory stage, especially during the winter months. Now, just because a certain venue is listed here as small, medium, or large, doesn't mean you can't necessarily use a large venue if you are a small group, or use a small venue if you are a large group. We'll work together to figure out what the venue is that's best for what it is you want to do, but we just sort of separated it. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's go to the next slide and to get a sense of what some of these look like. Here's a map of our campus. The red stars show our large venues. One inside the Armory, it's the stage that's in the food and event hall area. And another one is at the Mural Amphitheater, which is right behind Chihuly Garden and Glass. It's a large stage that's backed up by a giant World's Fair mosaic mural. Some of our medium-sized venues include the Artists at Play playground. That's where our playground is, located in between the Armory and the Museum of Pop Culture. Theater Commons is located between Seattle Rep and Cornish Playhouse on the north end of campus. There's a cute little plaza there with some tiered steps. The International Fountain is obviously where the big fountain is, and the whole sort of surrounding area, the lawn and the pavement around it. And then some of our more smaller venues include the Fisher Pavilion, the rooftop of it. The Fisher Pavilion is actually quite a large venue, which is not so easy to book as for these events, but the roof of it is an outdoor plaza, which is much more available. And we have done some events at the monorail on sort of the plazas leading up to it, more so than actually in the station itself. But again, there are other areas on campus that we can consider. You can see here on the top left is the Fisher Pavilion roof, that large plaza that you're looking at. on the top right is Artists at Play. There's several locations at Artists at Play. This one is more of a smaller section of it. And then an example of the monorail station ramp at the bottom there. The next slide are medium locations. Include the Northwest Courtyards. The ones on the left, there's both an upper area that does have a built-in stage. You can see it there. It's about roughly 20 feet by 15 feet, I would say. And then the lower Northwest Courtyard, which is a much larger area, but it's just a big flat plaza. Artists at Play Plaza, again, there are more open parts of that area that are available to you. International Fountain and and Theater Commons at the bottom right there. You can see that plaza with the tiered steps, which makes for a nice natural audience seating situation. And then our two large venues, the Miro Amphitheater on the left and the Armory Stage on the right. And again, the Armory is really the best indoor venue that we have available. So a lot of these venues are outdoors, some of which have cover and some of which do not. Yeah.
Okay, so some program highlights. So this program, the intention is to introduce a diverse selection of emerging and established artists to the Seattle Center campus year-round. So again, throughout all the different seasons. Again, these are pop-up performances. These are for artists of all disciplines. You can do theater, you can do music, you can do kind of cultural demonstrations, anything that's kind of like performance, kind of like an engaging element with the audience to perform around the campus. So this is for broadening the arts and cultural experiences of the Uptown Arts and Cultural District here. These pop-ups are for one-time performances only, and they can either be in the morning, afternoon, or the evening. Those are things that you'll schedule, repeat if awarded. So again, the artistic genres is music, dance, theater, demonstrations, multidisciplinary work that can engage the Seattle Center audience. There are 3 different award tiers. We have 2,000, 4,000, and 6,000, and we'll kind of go through those again. And we'll have the production support numbers with that. So basically, for each one of these tiers, Seattle Center provides in-kind production support for the awardees to help out with the performance.
In kind, in addition to the dollar amount.
In addition to the dollar amount. And yeah, they'll have the specific dollar amounts in a couple of slides. So eligibility here. So applicants are not eligible if they are an awardee of the current season. So if you were an awardee for 2024 or 2025, basically you need to skip. You need to skip a year. So no consecutive awarding. You must reside in King County and present programming regularly within Seattle. We have questions around being a 501c3. You don't need to be a nonprofit to apply for this grant. Arts and cultural organizations are eligible. Individuals are eligible. If you have a fiscal sponsor, that's great. Also, you can be funded through any other arts program, but not for the same project. This is kind of like a city policy. So if you were awarded for a particular project, you just can't get double funding for it through the city. And I can answer questions about that later if you have specifics. Applicants can only submit 1 application per cycle, per program. So you can only submit 1 project, 1 idea per cycle. And then multiple applicants can't submit separate applications for the same pop-up. So if you're looking to collaborate with someone, you can't put an application and then your collaborator also put an application for the same project or pop-up for this cycle. So for projects, yeah, we're looking for basically new or existing arts and cultural projects, meaning that it can be something that you've never presented before or something you're looking to represent in a new framing or in a new venue here on the Seattle campus. Your pop-up must be free and open to the public. We will require event insurance, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The pop-up needs to be between 40 and 90 minutes and at one of the eligible pop-up locations that are in the guidelines, and then most of which Pete just went over in the previous slides. And then again, the project takes place between November of this year and September of next year, 6. Any questions so far?
For those of you online, it's hard for us to see if you're raising your hand or anything, so I would just say go ahead and
Come off mute.
and unmute and speak what you have to say. I'll throw in a little bit in terms of the genres that are appropriate. This is a grant that is intended for performing arts. So if you are visual art based and you're looking to do an exhibition of visual art, unfortunately, this is not the grant for you. You can incorporate visual art into a sort of a performing arts lens. For example, we've had a band that performed, and they also had a painter doing live painting in response to the band. That makes total sense, right? It's performance of visual art. We've certainly had break dancers who also have some graffiti art on display as part of the event. But we do want to be clear that exclusively visual art projects, this is not the program for. There does want to be some sort of performance demonstration, etc. Shino, you have your hand up.
Yes. Is there days that are not gonna be allowed to put in the application, like a big event dates, that kind of stuff?
Good question. We will work with you to figure out a date and time that is appropriate and in which Seattle Center has availability to produce your event. So that means things like Bumbershoot, Folklife, Bite of Seattle, some of our major festivals, we don't have the ability to produce an artist at the center. The reason being is our campus is essentially turned over to those clients who produce those events, and we just don't have control of the space. However, we do like to book these performances when other events on campus are happening. That's sort of one of the whole points, is that we help you by providing a built-in audience. We like to look for days in which there are events happening at Climate Pledge Arena, so that there's audiences for a Kraken game or a concert who are coming, and as they are arriving, they stumble upon your performance and sit and watch for a while. We do have a little bit of flexibility to produce events during some of our Festal cultural events, as well as some of the other events that happen on campus. But you can think of sort of the big signature festivals that Seattle Center does. Again, Bumbershoot, Folklife, Pride, Bite of Seattle. Those dates would be off limits.
Okay, thank you.
Julia, I see you.
Yeah, I have a quick question about the requirement that must present programming regularly within Seattle. Is there any restrictions on that? Like what kind of programming, how regularly?
I think whatever type of programming you're looking to apply for and present should be along those lines of something that you are presenting in Seattle.
I think the question more like, hey, I don't necessarily live in King County, and I don't produce often within the city limits. really, what we're doing is we're not looking to fund artists who live and produce in Portland, Oregon, for example, or in Olympia, Washington. But you can live outside of the city of Seattle. But we're looking for artists who have a connection to the population of the city of Seattle, because this is an opportunity offered in the city of Seattle. And so there isn't a hard and fast rule about you have to do X number of events per year in the city to be considered. We just want to see some sort of demonstration that you have in the past and moving forward an intention to serve the population that does live in the city of
I
Seattle.
think my question is more if you're looking for groups that do public programming, or if the group does more like private programming but is looking to do public programming. Is that okay?
That would be totally okay,
That's
I
fine.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your arts practice could be exclusively ticketed, and maybe this is a great opportunity for you to offer something free. And so that's why it might be attractive for your organization or yourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Any other questions at this point? Okay. Let's talk about what's next.
Here we go. So we've got. Okay. So we've got the review criteria. So this is the criteria that our community review panel will be scoring, evaluating, and discussing applications based off of. This is arguably the most important part of the guidelines and application, that you want to just make sure that what you're putting into your application, your project, how you're responding to the questions, it's all kind of coming back to answering, speaking to these criteria, because that's going to make you have the most competitive and strongest application. So the first review criteria is around career advancement. And so this means that you detail how this unique opportunity will advance the career of the artists showcasing their talents, and or advance the organization's mission if you're applying as an organization. And then also panels will also take into consideration if you have previously received this reward before, mostly just around people have received this award multiple times, and that's totally something that can happen. We just want to make sure that the panelists and the applicants know that we want to also make sure that you're kind of, if you have received this reward before, kind of putting in some additional reasons and language around how this is continuing to advance your career instead of kind of just getting the opportunity again. So how are you building on that award? Then we have the achievability. So this is around more feasibility. You demonstrate relevant experience or community support, such as support from experienced partners and collaborators to execute the proposed pop-up. The use of award funding is appropriate for the award amount requested, and the scope of the pop-up fits within the in-kind production support provided. Do you want to talk a little bit more about this one? Because I should do a lot with it.
Sure. And just a little bit, we'll give you a sense of what that production support looks like,
Right.
The level of that support. But the panel will consider looking at the proposal. If this is the project, geez, that seems like it would fit within the amount of dollars that we have available to award them. And it seems like it'll fit within the amount of production support that's available to them. The panel will also consider, oh my gosh, this looks like huge and ambitious, and it's probably too big a project for this pop-up thing. Or this really wants to be, a 3-day multiple, venue festival, and that's not really appropriate as a pop-up. We do just want to make sure that the scale of the project that you are applying for is appropriate for the money. It's a good grant. It's between $2,000 and $6,000, but it's also not the most money in the world, right? And we do, the panel does highly value the fact that you use a lot of that money to pay your artists. So if it feels like all of that money would easily go toward production expenses and there'd be no money left over to pay artists, that would be a red flag, for example, right?
And then, yeah, and then just the other kind of just demonstrated experience that you have. So, you know, trying to keep it within a production, a pop-up that's like relevant to the experience that you have. You know, maybe if you're doing like something that's small scale and you're trying to use this grant to jump up to something like really big, that's maybe biting off too much you can chew. I think that's also part of the achievability dynamic as well. So the next one is artistic and cultural impact. Your proposed pop-up offers a compelling and authentic artistic and or cultural experience, which would resonate with the intended audience. So again, this kind of goes into the kind of the engagement aspect of your performance. Again, what is authentic? What have you been doing in the past? How are you bringing your authentic and artistic and cultural experience to this pop-up? Pretty straightforward. The next one is the community connections. Your proposed pop-up uplifts stories, creatives, and audiences from communities that represent Seattle's diversity. And then you also demonstrate a clear connection to those represented communities that would be part of the pop-up. So this is something that there's a section that we'll get to kind of in the background. So just like making sure, so just like sharing what your kind of authentic connection is to the performers on stage, the kind of the cultural community that's being represented on stage, and how are you kind of uplifting those stories and individuals and communities.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about audience. You can, here's what you can expect as an audience. Whoever are your people, your family, your friends, the people you normally advertise to and draw through your artistic expression, that's your audience. We do expect that you would promote to them and want them to come out. But a large majority of the audience will be people who just happen to be on campus when your event is happening. So they are sports fans. They are here for another cultural event at one of the theaters or Climate Pledge Arena. Or they're just tourists or people who are happening to be hanging out and enjoying an afternoon at Seattle Center. So it definitely is an opportunity to expand your reach to an audience that you might not normally have access to. And so it's good to think about the potential of that in your proposal, how you showing this particular artistic expression to an unknown and new demographic of audiences could be an exciting and dynamic thing for you.
Absolutely. Okay, so funding, expenses. So funding can be used for, and it's definitely encouraged for artist fees specifically. So you can pay artists, you can pay collaborators, people in the background, people on stage, everything that goes into the production. You can pay for promotion, marketing materials, flyers, project management, personnel costs related to the pop-up, supplies, equipment rentals, renting PA. Well, you don't have to rent PAs for this program. It's another program, right? But because a lot of the tech stuff is covered in the in-kind production support. But if you want to rent other equipment that maybe Seattle Center doesn't have, you can certainly do that. You can, again, event insurance is required, so you can use part of your award to cover that. Then you can also pay for up to 10% of your award amount for food expenses. Either again, leading up in the planning, the preparation of the pop-up, or potentially even during, there's some food permits and stuff that you can talk about if you have specific questions around that because Seattle Center does have some compliance things and permits around that, given the vendors that are already here. So funding that you can't use the award for is additional fundraising. So you can't have your pop-up and then raise more money for another thing or for your band or something like that specifically, or
You can raise money for this event. You just can't use the money that you receive
right.
for this to fund fundraising activities.
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you. Funding can be used for religious services, gifts, awards, prizes. If you're looking to do some type of like competition on your pop-up, you can't like buy awards or prizes to give out to anyone who like wins that competition. Organizational personnel costs not directly related to the project, and then the purchasing of equipment or software such as cameras or Ableton music softwares or anything like that. You can rent equipment, you can rent things, but the purchasing of equipment.
Yeah, I'll expound on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to buy costumes to put on your dancers for your event, obviously you can use your money to buy those costumes. If you're looking to buy a really fancy laptop computer to run a video projection, and then once the pop-up ends, then you have possession of that laptop computer for the rest of your life. That's not cool, if that makes sense, right? So yes, you can use your money for material expenses, but we aren't interested in funding equipment that will last beyond the scope of this particular pop-up.
Right. Yeah. Like clothing and costumes is a great like nuance and something that you can purchase. You obviously don't have to rent those things. And then funds from this program cannot be combined with other city funding sources nor funds supporting another Seattle Center event. So like if you're performing at Festal or Folklife, you can't like combine your Artists at the Center pop-up as one of those performances as well. Like you're already doing the Festal and you're gonna like just use that as your Artists at the Center program. We need to have, it needs to be a separate benefit for the public and outside of another already program that you have established.
You may be an artist who frequently works for Northwest Folklife Festival. You get hired by the festival to do a set, and that's totally great. That doesn't make you ineligible.
Right.
But what it means is that you would be producing a different event for Artists at the Center. You wouldn't take that money for Artists at the Center and soup up your Folklife performance and make that bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions about that? The next slide is about the production support that we've been talking about. But any questions?
Emmanuel.
Yeah, go ahead. Take yourself off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm a little confused here about the funding because if we're getting like a $2,000 level, whatever it is, and that's going to go into our bank account, or I'm not sure. Like we're restricted from using it. It sounds like, but I'm just confused as far as when you receive the money. I'm just confused. Like how can you say? I mean, if you're going to give me $2,000 for this, I'm not allowed to use it for certain things then. So I'm kind of confused how the money is used, and if we have to ultimately spend all the money on things that are related to the pop-up only, I'm kind of confused now.
The $2,000 is intended to cover your expenses to produce this pop-up event. Yes, that is true. And that the large majority of that probably will go to pay yourself and your artists. You can say my time is worth $1,000. My collaborator is worth $1,000. The $2,000 that you're going to give me, we're going to pay ourselves $1,000 each, and it's done. The restrictions come in saying in using this money for things that are not related to the pop-up. Like, hey, they just gave me $2,000, so now I'm going to buy that great digital camera that I've always wanted, so that I can make work in the future. That's not directly benefiting or being used for this performance opportunity. So that's where there is some restrictions. Does that make sense?
It does, but at the same time, if I'm saying, okay, I'm going to designate X amount of dollars to pay myself to, as a professional musician, then I mean, I really can use that for anything, right?
Well,
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, once you pay yourself, it's in
yeah.
your bank account.
It's
And
also reimbursement process, that might be.
Yeah,
It is.
maybe in the reporting process is kind of, so basically, so let's say you get a $2,000 grant, you do your pop-up performance. Basically, the final reporting process is you'll basically just share what services you provided. Basically, what was your pop-up? Did you use it on rehearsal time? The time you did to play to do the pop-up itself? Whatever it might be, maybe space rental. Whatever it is. So it's not like itemized.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean,
I get it. I think I get it now.
hey, we're not.
Yeah, I think it's just you have to it sounds like you have to justify exactly where the money's going. And if I can say, well, this is what I normally charge on an event, and this is what the grant is really paying me as a professional.
yes,
And that's my money. So that, I guess that's what it comes down to, right? It's just this, I can say, well, this is my rate sheet. This is how I normally, what I usually get, compensated.
Yeah.
And that would justify the grant being, okay, this is my money, right?
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
cool.
4 months down the road, however you spend that money or something, that's irrelevant to
Okay.
like paid yourself and for the time that you like rehearsed, you paying yourself for the pop-up. Yeah.
Okay. I think I get it. It's just kind of weird because I mean, okay, if I'm paying myself, okay, somewhere down the line, I may need to purchase equipment or
Sure.
software.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that kind of circumvents the funding may not be used for, but it's kind of weird. But
Well,
I kind of get it, but it's
No,
also
it's a good example. Like, if I'm a trio and I don't pay the artists, I coerce my friends to perform for free, and I use my $4,000 to buy a laptop computer instead. Like that's not cool. Because we want.
that would be pretty crappy.
Yeah. Yes.
And if I could, I know there's other questions too, but just kind of confirming for Emmanuel, this also is similar to other city grants. You do the project and then you submit for reimbursement. So that is another thing, is it's not like the funds are coming to you and then you choose how to use them. So that helps with the reporting and the communication and the designations. Is that true? Yeah.
yes. The city has all different kinds of ways that it does it. It's like, this is a reimbursement kind of technically. We'll get into like, you can request up to 50% before your grant, before the event for planning and preparation. Again, if you need to put down a deposit for something, if you need to get pay for a rehearsal space, you would pay yourself to rehearse before, you can you can request up to 50%. And then after the event, you just share what the rest of those expenses went towards. That can just be your time, whatever.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think I understand. Thank you.
Cool. Was there another question out there?
Hi, yes, I have a question.
Go for it.
So I have my band. I'm a musician, and we are looking forward for opportunities to perform, and this is great. But let's say we want to use the money for recording, and it can that can be that part of the thing. Like, for example, I am playing like the concert of 90 minutes of songs, and part of the objectives of our project and the career is to record maybe 5 of those songs. Can you justify that in the pop-up, or you can't?
Meaning you want to record your live performance so that you have that recording for the future?
Yes, that's one option. Yeah, like give a videographer and do all the editing and stuff. That is one question. And the other is if we want to record in a professional studio the performance that we had there. It's yeah, basically that.
So it sounds like there's 2 parts.
It's 2 parts. It's 2 different questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first one is if I can hire, I guess it's fine because it's part of the thing. And it's a product that we will have, and it will help us to get someone to get in, record this and do like a nice video, you know. But the second question is, the second one is, see if we use part of that funding for the studio, for the music studio. Can we do that?
For the studio, no, because that is not a part of the public benefit. No one.
Well, I mean, if you are recording music in advance and that is the music that you're going to play for your show,
Before it. Okay.
that I think that would be okay.
That makes sense. For some reason, yeah, I guess, yeah, there's, yeah. If it's before you want to record it, and it's going to go towards the public benefit of the pop-up, yes. If it's like you do the pop-up and then you want to use the money to record in the studio afterwards, no. I would,
Okay.
but, and then the other question is, so for a videographer, we don't have that service, but if you want
Videography is not a service that Seattle Center can offer as part of this. So if you do want to record your event, you are welcome to. You would have to line up your own videographer, and then you would have to assume whatever expense that is.
Yeah.
You could use some of your grant money to cover that expense.
Is it true that
We
engineers do have?
generally we are generally able to record audio from your event and make that available to you after the fact.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Okay.
And I mean, that's a basic recording. You're not going to get 5 different tracks that you can mix and do whatever. You'll get like one master recording of like the final mix, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay. So yeah, so just to be clear, if I put my own videographer in the lineup, and I can put it in the expenses of the budget, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. And I have to have, the music has to be in advance, and then I can place that thing like as a refunding thing.
Yeah, if you want to, record some original music and that's what you're presenting at your pop-up, that is an expense directly related to the pop-up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Let's jump into the production support.
Yeah,
This might be
we're about
a good time.
halfway through. We're doing good. Yeah, go ahead. Take it away.
So Seattle Center is fortunate in that we produce events and live performance year round. So we have teams of people, which includes stage and sound technicians, as well as equipment, which is generally at your disposal. Each award level receives roughly 25% in additional funds to cover their production expenses. So at the $2,000 level, that equals about $750. $4,000, $1,360, and the $6,000 level is about $1,800. So if you win a $6,000 grant, you will receive the full $6,000, and that's yours to spend however you need to for this event. In addition to that, there's up to $1,800 to cover your production expenses. Now that is money that you as an artist will never even see. That's money that Office of Arts will directly reimburse Seattle Center for our labor and equipment that is used, right? But what it does mean is that the scope of your $6,000 event needs to fit within $1,800 of production. What that roughly equals to, and let's go ahead and go to the next slide. What that roughly equals is about 4 to 5 hours of time. So that means the moment our crews arrive at your venue, start to set up. Is there another one in advance?
Oh, yeah, there is. We'll go back to that one. Yeah.
Go back to this one later. Here we go. The moment our crews start setting up for your event, you arrive, you load in, you do your sound check, you do your spacing, whatever it is you need to do, you do the actual performance, and then you do your strike. All of that wants to fit within about 4.5 to 5 hours. Seattle Center will provide you, we have staging available. We have built-in stages in many of these venues, so that's a free resource. For those venues that don't have staging, if you need something elevated, we have a limited number of 4x8 platforms we can offer. Generally, we are able to offer you a pretty robust sound system that includes speakers, a mixer, microphones, stage monitors, all of the microphone stands, direct inputs that you might need for your electronic equipment, things of that sort. If you're interested in projection of some sort, your best bet is the Armory stage, in which there's a built-in LED screen. We do have some video projectors that are available portably. It's just, it is challenging because most of that, those performances would need to happen after dark in order for that to really be seen in an outdoor venue. We can give you basic equipment, tables, chairs, easels, stools, music stands, things of that sort. If you need to drive onto campus, and we can make that available to you, we do offer free parking for yourself and your artists who are associated on the day of the event. We make dressing room space available for you. And then again, all of the equipment that Seattle Center offers comes with operators, trained technicians who will set up and run that equipment for you. As I said before, the one thing that we can't really offer is a videographer to document your event.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sarah, I don't know if anyone else has a question. Getting much more specific about us and our work. As I was just coming in here, and I am a wheelchair user, came in here, I noticed there was a space being set up for Folk Live. I went right by the Science Center, so I came in there, and for the first time I had ever seen, anyhow, a very, very inviting a ramp to go over the grass to get to someplace. Now it might be there for other wheels, not human wheels, but it struck me as what a great infrastructure to have, and I've been lobbying for a lot of outdoor performance venues to be thinking about that in terms of wheelchairs. Could something like that be included, or do you think that was an expense that particular event setup was using? Because it was it's a nice metal path.
Interesting. I don't know the piece of equipment that you're referring to.
Yeah.
But we do have, I would say almost all of our venues are accessible. And if they aren't, we do have infrastructure to make them, especially for artists and audience members. We do have what's called TerraPlast, which is more like a plastic, hard plastic sort of good that can go over groundscape to sort of even that out. If you have specific needs, especially around mobility and so forth, we should be able to work with you to accommodate those.
Yeah, I just wondered if that feels like something that could potentially be part of this infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Okay, further conversations, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And just to follow up, we have an FAQ document, and in addition to the guidelines, if you go on like the webpage and the materials where you find the guidelines, you also see an FAQ page, and at the very bottom of the FAQ page, you can see a breakdown, like line by line, of the production support costs, like just so you can also kind of calculate on your own just the raw numbers of like how much certain things
Yeah,
cost.
and that would be useful for you to look at, to determine whether you should apply for a $2,000, $4,000, or $6,000 grant.
Yeah.
If you know you need, you're going to have 15 band members and each one of them needs amplification and so forth, you're probably looking at a $6,000 grant, right? That's not really gonna be able to be produced for $750. So keep in mind the scope and scale of your project and apply for the amount of funding which feels in line with that.
Yeah, and I think in the guidelines, we also have the tiers broken down by performer. So like 2,000 is kind of like for 1 to 2 people, 4,000 is like 3 to 5, and then 6,000 is like 6 plus. I mean, loosely, it's not like part of the criteria, but generally, it's like that can also help guide you into like into those different categories.
Yeah. But for example, if you have a dance troupe of 12 people and your only technical needs are I need you to start a track at the beginning and then press end when it's over, that's really low tech, technically. So you could do that on a $2,000 budget. You couldn't necessarily pay your 12 people a lot of money on a $2,000 budget, but you could, production-wise, produce that.
I can't see the chat, unfortunately, like the setup I have right here, but I did see a question come in about promotion and marketing. You can spend money, your award money on promotion. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, you can spend award money on promotion and marketing. The city of Seattle generally, Seattle Center does more of the marketing.
Seattle Center does do a lot of marketing. We'll do, you'll have a dedicated page on our event calendar on our website. You'll have some digital signage, which is splashed all across campus in about a month leading up to your event. We'll do some social media posting, as well as Office of Arts and UACC, our other partner, do some social media posting as well. We do have some alliances with an organization called Do 206, which does some online promotion for us. But then, we do encourage all artists to use their networks to do additional promotion, and you can use some of your grant money to cover costs for that marketing.
And now that I'm seeing some in the chat, is this a reimbursement grant or upfront funding? So a little bit of both. We joined a little bit later. Yeah, so you can request up to 50% of your grant amount. So if you get a $4,000 grant, you can request up to $2,000 for planning and preparation. Again, for like deposits, paying your collaborators, that kind of fun stuff. And then you request the rest of the money after your event. So it's a little bit of both. Okay, it looks like. What I see we do.
Go back, go on.
Oh, go backward. Okay, and I see we have hands, and we got about 35 minutes, and.
Yeah, well, Kirk, I see your question. Yes, that is something that happens. If your application asks for $6,000 and the selection panel is going through the application, and it's like, you know what, we really want to fund this group. We don't have $6,000 to give them, but we could give them $4,000. They might recommend funding you at a lower level. There is a question in the application process that says, if you get funded at a lower level, tell us how you might be able to scale back. And so that is something that is considered for sure.
Yes, the flexibility question.
Real quick, and if you are a successful candidate and receive this award, here's what you can expect. You will develop a contract with Office of Arts. Once that's done, we determine what season your event is happening in. And then you will schedule a meeting with me where you will tell me your big vision. And I'll be like, great, that sounds awesome. It sounds like what here's how we can support you in that. We will determine the date and time and location. You will be assigned another person here at Seattle Center who will interface with you directly on really technical and production related logistics. And we'll ask you to provide with us 3 things at least about a month before your planned event. That's a tech sheet, which will tell us all of your technical needs. You will send in just proof of your insurance that you have listed the City of Seattle as additionally insured. All this is information which we will give you much more detail on if you get this award and go through in more specifics. And then we will also request marketing information, which includes a couple images, a description, a link to all of your social media handles and websites, etc. And then the last thing after your performance is over, there is a short evaluation as part of the final invoice, which you submit to Office of Arts to receive your final reimbursement.
Abby asks if you can access an application, if I can share the application from a previous year. Yes, I can do that. I can send you a PDF so that you have information to use.
Okay, let's move on since we are running.
Okay. How to apply? Okay, so we use a grant portal called Flux. Several other departments are on Flux these days. I believe the Office of Arts and Culture was one of the first to get on this grant portal. So for those of you who haven't used it before, you do need to create an account for yourself. That'll require a little registration. It'll require you to verify it in your email, all those types of things that I deal with on the day-to-day when people are applying. So just make sure you're checking your spam folder and all that kind of stuff when you sign up for a new account. If you have received funding from us recently, you can check with me to make sure you're not creating a duplicate account, because that also kind of creates some fun things for everybody. But yeah, it's most streamlined. If you do already have an account, log into that same account. Please don't create a new one unless there's a specific reason you have to. And if so, contact me and we'll get into that later on. But yeah, you can find on the webpage of the Arts at the Center webpage, you can find the this link right here, and that'll take you to the the Flux homepage to sign in. Okay. So the next one is basically you can either apply as an individual, you can apply as an organization, or you can apply as a community group. So again, if you're applying as an organization, please find your organization in the drop down when you type it in. If you have already have a Flux account, and same with the individual. And then you just fill out your contact information. I'll do a live demo of the Flux application in a minute. That'll help you. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the actual application questions. And so these are the categories that you'll be answering in the application. So the first one is your artist or applicant website or social media link. This is not required, but it is highly encouraged because we don't. It's kind of a replacement for work samples to make this application a little bit more accessible and less time consuming for applicants and panelists. So please share, if you do one, please share one link that showcases your work that best aligns with the evaluation criteria. Panelists will review up to 2 minutes of the content found in the link you provide. Please do not provide any additional web links anywhere else in your application, as panelists will only be looking at the one link. Sometimes people include more links in the other bodies of the application, but to keep things fair and also respect the time of the panelists, we really just have the applicants share that one link. So artistic discipline, pretty straightforward. Are you in dance, cultural demonstration, theater? You'll have different categories for the primary discipline that you're looking to present for this pop-up. The pop-up summary, this is the beefiest part. This is where you have the most room to elaborate on your work. So describe the pop-up you would like to present at Seattle Center if selected. How will this opportunity help advance the career of the artists / groups showcasing their talent and/or advance your organization's mission? Who will be performing? What communities are being represented? Who is the intended audience? What authentic artistic and cultural experience will be shared with the intended audience? And then include the genres, whether this is new, remounted work, technical production needs, and anything else you feel presents a comprehensive and compelling proposal. So all these questions, you know, we put them in here to help you as the applicant kind of answer the questions that the panelists are looking for. And just like best practices, it's like, you know, try to give the most information so that the panelists don't have any questions about their work or the pop-up that you're looking to do. So the most realized, the most detailed pop-up that you can give, the better. You don't have to have everything figured out. We realize, you know, you're applying for this in June, and some of you all might not even present until next year. So it's like you don't have to have all of your performers confirmed and everything, but the more that you can share the concrete details to let the panelists, you know, feel the experience that you're looking to, you know, kind of present, the better. So this next section is new, and this is purely from questions that we've heard in the panel process, and it's called the use of award funding. So a lot of the times the panelists are like, okay, yeah, this pop-up's great, but where's the actual money going specifically? So we've kind of built in a small little section so that applicants can just give a little summary of where the money's going. So briefly describe how you intend to use the money for your first choice award amount. For example, paying artists, gear rental, materials. You don't need to provide a budget or breakdown, but you should include fair compensation for creative workers involved in your proposal, plus any in-kind donations and/or volunteer services. So yeah, just want to know kind of where the money's going. You know, sometimes we see applications that have like 40 performers, and we're like, oh, well, it's only a $2,000 grant. How are you going to pay 40 different people? So the panelists are just like, how does that work? You know, so this is really just, again, to give the panelists more information to better understand the cool pop-up that you're looking to propose. So the flexibility section, this is what Pete was referring to a few minutes ago. Should you need to adjust the scale of the proposed event, either larger or smaller, usually smaller, briefly describe how you might do that. Pretty straightforward. Background, briefly describe your key accomplishments in your artistic discipline, as well as your experience producing performances or events that demonstrate your ability to achieve your proposed pop-up. And then also, what are the communities you're connected to or historically have worked with that, again, give like context to one of the selection criteria points that we pointed out as well. One of the things we tried to do this year is to really help the applicants connect these questions with the selection criteria by kind of giving them the selection criteria in the actual, baked into the actual questions, just to help, drive that home for you all. And then, the award categories. So you'll have up to 3 categories to choose from, your first, second, and third choice. You can put the same one if you really want to double down. If you're like, I want 6,000 and you're not going to budge, you can put 6,000 for all 3 of them. People do that. But you know, you could do 6,000, 4,000, 4,000, you know, any combination that works for you. Same with scheduling preferences. I think the more diverse options that you give the panel, the better. And then for Pete specifically, more about scheduling, but you'll basically get top 4 choices for which season you want to be in. So If there's a season that you just can't do, then don't put it in there. So if you're like, I don't want to do anything in the wintertime, you don't have to put anything in the wintertime. But so basically just put in your top choices, and then that'll help. If awarded, that'll help you play the Tetris game of putting all the scheduling stuff together. There's a demographic information question in the application. It is required in this, but in every section you can opt to decline to state or provide any information. We really just use this to help evaluate our programs and just see who we're serving. Yes, a decline to answer option is included in every question from the demographic.
And it's important to note that the demographic questions are seen by Office of Arts staff and
Yes.
them alone. The grant panelists do not see your answers to those questions, so they are not considering that in their evaluation.
Yeah, right. Panelists will not see the demographic information at all.
There's a question in the chat. Alicia asked, if you're applying for other grants through Office of Arts, will this change your chances of funding? And I think the answer to that is no. They are completely separate opportunities. The panel that's assembled to evaluate this application is totally different than any other panel that's going to look at any other grant opportunity. So you can apply for as many different grant opportunities as you want, and you would be considered fairly for all of those.
Yes. And yeah, each grant program is slightly different. I will say, again, going back to like not being funded for the same project twice. So yeah, so just make sure you're providing a like different project when you are applying for those, even though, I mean, I guess if you haven't been funded for those, that's fine, but just keep that in mind that if you do get awarded one project, or you get awarded for a project in one grant and you're applying for the same project in the other grant, that might cause some conflict. But yeah, you can crush that first when you get there. Okay, so here's some applications like to-dos, some kind of tips for you all. So definitely read the guidelines and the FAQ document. Those are your friends. I'm here for any questions that you have. I'll share my email at the very end. Check your eligibility, and then I'll just follow the online instructions carefully. It's a little difficult to navigate on the Flux portal, so I'm there if you have any questions. Explore the online application early so you can plan ahead for your answers and also navigate any tech stuff. Consider drafting your application responses in a separate document outside of Flux. You can save in Flux, but things happen, and it's always my least favorite thing to hear that someone spent hours writing out their grant proposal and then they lost all that information. So always just encourage applicants, no matter what kind of grant, to always put it in a Word document and then copy and paste into the grant application itself. Attended information session. Kudos, y'all are here, already doing that. Update or complete your profile, as I mentioned earlier. Talk with me about any questions you have before the due date. As you can imagine, I get the most amount of questions the week or two before, so the sooner you can ask me and get that feedback, the better. I'll still be there to support you. It just might be crunch time for everybody. Be clear and concise in your application. Again, panelists read a lot of these applications, and so the more clear and easy to read and descriptive you can be, not like flowery descriptive, but just like, show that, give them the experience of what you're looking to provide better. Save your work, reread your responses. You can, share your responses with a trusted peer colleague to also kind of give you feedback about it as well. Definitely submit your application before the due date, so you have time to deal with any technical issues. We'll get into the date, but the due date is Tuesday, June 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we don't accept late submissions, so just make sure that you get it in for that time. I added this to do from last year. If you can follow up with an email to me once you do submit your application, just to make sure that it was received. I think a lot of times, sometimes people leave it in draft form and they think that they submitted, but they don't. So yeah, send me an email when you think you have submitted it, and I will confirm that it has been submitted. I see some questions in the chat.
Yeah, there's a question from Emmanuel about where do you recommend people obtain event insurance? I'll be honest, Emmanuel, that's a big question and probably more detailed than we have time right now. If you are to receive this grant, we do have an orientation session for artists before it kicks off, in which we'll go into much more detail about things like event insurance, and we can give you tips on where to and how to achieve that. A basic answer is Google event performance or event insurance for performers, and you'll see a lot of options.
Yeah.
Malika asks if I'm doing a children's book read along, is giving kids in attendance a copy of the book an acceptable expense? I guess so.
Interesting question. Yeah, it's like if you were a band giving out CDs.
Giving out CDs, yeah.
It's kind of funny, never got asked that.
It's not really a prize or a gift. It's kind of a gift, but
Let me circle back around to you on that. That is a
audience experience.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
part of the audience experience.
Yeah.
I want to say yes, it sounds great. I just I think so. That sounds like we would do it. Real quick about insurance. Of course, we're not saying we know how much it'll be. But it is something that you can put into your application of something that you're going to spend the money on. Sometimes you give like a
range.
larger range.
I generally see, depending on the size of the group and the scope of what you want to do, a one-day event insurance for a pop-up performance of this scale can be as low as $150 and as high as $500.
And does that include the automobile drive-on things? I know that also.
That doesn't necessarily include
Okay.
automobile coverage.
So like if you're looking, so again, we'll get into this later, like, it's like, yeah, if you're looking to drive your vehicle onto the campus, load out and stuff like that, the insurance is much higher for liability. But
Kirk asks, does the Flex system send confirmation of successful receipt? I think it says you have successfully done it in the thing, but you don't get an email after the fact that says we received it.
I think you do.
Okay.
I think you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Kurt. I believe you do. Some people think they submit it, they don't. But you'll definitely see like a green little bar will say like success completed in the Flux system. And then you should receive an email that says like, thanks for submitting. And it's going to be like a loose timeline, like you'll hear about notifications in the fall or in September or something like that, because I update that. So yes, you should. Google the event insurance. Okay, we're good. Okay. So those are the to-dos. I think we're okay. Save and submit. Don't forget to review your application. I'm gonna try and do a live demo real quick.
While Zach is getting that queued up, are there any other questions that anyone wants to verbally announce? Okay.
That's enough. We were
Covered things very thoroughly.
okay. I love to hear it. This is going- Wow, it's really slow, y'all.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's just the lag of doing something live and a Teams call.
Okay, so again, this is the screen that you will find on the web page. You'll log in with whatever credentials you have.
Thanks, Monica. Thanks, Mercedes. Thanks, Emmanuel.
This is the most riveting part. We're gonna leave now.
That's fine.
I'm joking. So you'll go in as a grantee. You probably won't even have these other options. So you'll land on a page that looks like this, and you're gonna go to this left-hand side on this gray column. You're gonna scroll down to the Office of Arts and Culture. And then in the body of the screen, you'll scroll all the way down. Right now, we have a few applications open right now. I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but definitely check those out if you're also interested. These two right here are mostly for arts organizations specifically. Okay, and then you'll get to Artists at the Center. Scroll down, all this information is pretty high level guidelines. And you'll click the green button. Okay. So the top half of this is just kind of some Flux specific information. You'll see how to use the portal. Our Flux team has done a pretty good job in terms of helping applicants navigate the system with a lot of information. Sorry, 1 second. I
May have bumped you out.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. So
Monica, I see is that a hand raise from previous, or do you have a new question?
I don't know why that's here. Okay. Hopefully this is just like application. Okay. So you'll first get asked about this eligibility criteria. And you need to click edit to start selecting. eligibility.
First question on the lag is,
Yeah, sorry.
I know, the lag is crazy.
The lag is pretty crazy, actually, like very slowly, carefully use the mouse. Okay. So we apply as an individual. Then, again, if you have an account, it should populate and drop down. If not, there are instructions on how to set up a new account. So for the sake of this demo, I'm going to answer all the eligibility questions right. Okay. And then okay, so there's those two, and then again, if you received funding this current cycle and you're not eligible, so no. And you're going to click save. That it's thinking. Once you click save, it'll open up the application. There you go. Okay, so here's the rest of the application. If you're doing business under a different name, that's what DBA stands for. That here. And basically, this first half is just contact information. If you have an account and you want to update this information, you can do that here. So then it starts getting into some of the more basic things like the discipline of your pop-up. Anything that's in bold is required. This point kind of messes people up because the category itself is bold, but the website or link or social media link is not bold to indicate that it is optional. So please just put a link there. If you decide to put a link to like a Google Drive or something, just make sure it's accessible. There's not really a way to follow up too much after you've submitted the application, so just make sure that it's accessible. So yeah, these are just kind of the getting into the questions that we shared previously on the other side. It's basically all of the background information. I'm not going to go through all this, but it's pretty straightforward. Most of the questions I get is just to like how to get to this application, like using the left-hand sidebar. I would just wait to make sure that people understand how to get here. So again, there's a save and close here. There's a save button here. Definitely save as you go along. I don't think it automatically saves after like a couple minutes, unfortunately. So, you know, the save button is your friend. So definitely do that. But yeah, this is basically, you'll just complete all this information here. Then you'll get to the applicant demographics questions. Again, this says that it will not be shared with the selection panel. And then basically you do need to acknowledge that the information you provided is open to public disclosure if anybody requests, and also that you are authorized, you are the authorized person giving this information, that you can do that either on behalf of the organization or just you as an individual. So yeah, and then all these questions here. Yeah. Going to state options. And that's the demo. I think I'm going to try and go back to the slideshow. Yeah, are there any other questions? Has anything come in the chat? Any questions?
I have some questions that might be more specific to our situation, so I will save, perhaps I'll save this. I mean, we produce you regularly with Center Theater, and so we have a little bit of a home. I'd love to encourage some of our artists to be independent producers, and I'd like to encourage them to do this, so I don't know what that means in terms of our crossover with that, so
Gotcha.
all kinds of ideas. And then I would really look at that path that there, it's remarkably, it's notably good.
Okay.
And because it allows wheelchairs to go on the grass.
Yeah.
And a lot of these events do seem to be happening grass.
Me too.
Anyway, I'll be around a lot this weekend. Thank you.
Any other questions online?
So last slide, timeline. So again, Tuesday, June 17th at 5 p.m. is the application close, the deadline. We cannot accept late submissions. The program, the portal just stops accepting applications at that point. July through August, applications will be reviewed by the independent community review panel. Again, all based on the review criteria. September is when applicants will be notified of their status. And then also in September, we'll have the awardee orientation and start the contracting process for those who are awarded. November through September, again, are when the performances will take place. And then, yeah, within 30 days following an event or by October 31st of next year, awardees will submit their final report and invoice. And as mentioned, invoices are paid once the final report is submitted, and then awardees can request up to 50% of the grants for planning and preparation costs.
Kirk has a question, which is a great one. Is like, who makes up the review panel? The review panel is about 5 or so individuals. The majority of them are artists who have gone through this program. So you'll be being reviewed by peers. We also do have representatives from Seattle Center, Uptown Arts and Culture Coalition, and Climate Pledge Arena, our program funders and partners. So a combination of all of those folks will be looking at your work.
Yeah, so these are practicing artists, again, people who have, artists who have gone through this program, arts administrators, community members that have a background in this type of work.
Thank you.
Okay. And we're at 5:31.
Okay.
How's that? Are there any other questions? I want to respect everyone's time. My email, I will send out this slide deck to you all as well as the recording. It'll also, the recording will be on the web page. And then also, my email address is here as well. Zach.frimmel@seattle.gov. Slides not going on, but yeah, thank you all for joining us, and
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck, and I'm here if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
So are you interested in promoting this